Your leadership might be a survival strategy, not a strength. Welcome to Soft Girl Era, the sacred space where strong Black women unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom they deserve. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French, and I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Today, I want to share something with you that honestly rocked my world when I first heard it. I recently had the honor of sitting down with JaRaena Wise, a brilliant voice in the conversation around healing, boundaries, and what it really means to step into your soft girl era as a Black woman who's been carrying the weight of the world since childhood. JaRaena is doing transformative work helping Black women, especially those of us who grew up as the eldest daughter, understand how the roles we played in our families are still showing up in our boardrooms, our businesses, and our burnout. She's changing lives by helping women see that the cape they've been wearing isn't their identity, it's their cage. And what JaRaena shared with me stopped me in my tracks. Here's the truth bomb: what we celebrate as natural leadership, what we call strong Black woman energy in the workplace, is often the result of years, decades even, of unpaid, unacknowledged emotional labor in our families. Labor that quietly fuels burnout, people pleasing, and perfectionism in our careers and businesses. Let me say that again because I need you to really sit with this. That drive you have, that ability to manage chaos, to step in when things fall apart, to be the one everyone calls when they need something handled, that's not just ambition, that's conditioning. And for many of us, especially those of us who are eldest daughters, that conditioning started long before we ever walked into a conference room or launched a business. JaRaena calls this eldest daughter syndrome. And sis, if you have ever felt like you're responsible for everyone's survival, if you've ever struggled to delegate, if you've ever said yes when your whole body was screaming, no, this is for you. Because here's what JaRaena helped me see: many eldest daughters think they're just ambitious or driven, when in reality, they've been conditioned to overfunction, to manage everyone's emotions, to fix every crisis, to hold the family together. And in corporate space and entrepreneurship, that conditioning gets rewarded. We're seen as dependable, the go to problem solver, the informal team mom. But underneath all that praise, there's chronic exhaustion, difficulty delegating, and a deep, deep fear of disappointing others. So, the challenging perspective JaRaena wants us to sit with, and the one I want you to really wrestle with today, is this: some of the traits we celebrate as success might actually be survival strategies. And healing eldest daughter syndrome can make us more powerful, not less. Now, I know some of you are listening and thinking, but LeAnne, I like being the strong one. I like being the person people can count on. And I hear you. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being dependable or capable. What I am saying is that there's a difference between choosing to lead and being conditioned to carry. There's a difference between strength that comes from wholeness and strength that comes from survival. And JaRaena's work is all about helping us learn the difference. Let me share three key insights from my conversation with JaRaena Wise, insights that I believe can shift how you show up in your career, your business, and your life. First, your strength has a story, and it's okay to rewrite it. If you're the eldest daughter, especially in a Black family, that I've got it, energy you carry into boardrooms and client meetings often started in childhood: breaking up arguments, protecting siblings, translating adult problems into solutions. You became the third parent before you even hit puberty. And that role, that responsibility, it shaped you. It taught you how to read a room, how to anticipate needs, how to manage crisis. Um, but it also taught you that your worth is tied to how much you can carry. And here's what JaRaena wants you to know: you're allowed to ask, do I still want to carry this much? Your identity as a leader can be chosen, not just inherited. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a woman, let's call her Maya. Maya grew up in a Black family where her mother worked two jobs and her father was emotionally unavailable. By the time she was 10, she was watching her younger siblings, making sure they did their homework, breaking up their fights, and translating her mother's stress into something manageable for the younger kids. When her mother cried late at night, Maya was the one who sat with her, who held her hand, who promised everything would be okay. Maya's teachers praised her maturity. Her family relied on her reliability. Her friends admired her strength. And Maya learned that being strong, being capable, being the one who holds it together, that's what made her valuable. Fast forward to her 30s. Maya's juggling a high pressure corporate job, caregiving for her aging mother, supporting her younger brother through a financial crisis, and trying to launch a side business. She's exhausted. She can't sleep. She feels guilty every time she thinks about saying no, and she has no idea why she can't just relax, like everyone tells her to. Because no one ever told Maya that her strength wasn't just a personality trait, it was a survival strategy. It was the role she was assigned as a child, and she's been performing it ever since. But here's what happened when Maya started therapy. She began to name the pattern. She started to see that the over responsibility, the emotional labor, the constant fixing, it wasn't her job. It never was. She implemented structured boundaries. She designated no call work hours. She set limits on how much financial help she could give. She asked her siblings to take on shared responsibilities. And you know what happened? Her burnout decreased. Her mental health improved. She had the energy to pursue that promotion she'd been putting off. She launched her side business. And slowly, her family dynamics shifted. Her siblings started stepping up. The old expectation that big sis will fix it, and it started to crumble. That's what rewriting your story looks like. It's not about abandoning your family or your values, it's about redistributing the load so you can actually thrive instead of just survive. Second insight, unlearning over responsibility is a business strategy, not just self care. JaRaena was so clear about this, and I want you to hear it. Eldest daughters often struggle to delegate, say no, or set boundaries because they've been rewarded for doing the most with the least. In entrepreneurship and leadership, that shows up as doing every role yourself, rescuing team members, over delivering for clients, burning out in silence. But here's the shift, treating delegation boundaries and rest as non negotiable systems in your business or career is part of healing, and it directly increases your capacity to grow and scale. Let me share another story. There's research on what's called the superwoman schema, a pattern where Black women feel obligated to be emotionally strong, self sacrificing, constantly resilient. These traits overlap heavily with how many eldest daughters are socialized. They must be perfect, reliable, invulnerable. They internalize perfectionism, being the example for younger siblings, the one who can't mess up. Picture a woman named Keisha. Keisha runs her own consulting firm. She's known in her industry as the woman who gets it done. Her clients love her because she over delivers on every project. Her team admires her because she's always available, always solving problems, always stepping in when something goes wrong. But behind closed doors, Keisha is falling apart. She's working 16-hour days. She's answering emails at midnight. She's taking on projects she doesn't have capacity for because she's terrified of letting anyone down. She's not sleeping. She's not eating well. And she's convinced that if she stops, if she slows down, if she asks for help, everything will collapse. Because Keisha grew up being praised for being responsible, mature, strong. Her worth was tied to being unshakable, to taking on more than others. And as she advanced into leadership, those traits translated into overwork and emotional isolation, even when she was successful by external standards. But then Keisha started working with a coach, and her coach asked her a simple question: What would happen if you weren't perfect? What would happen if you asked for help? At first, Keisha couldn't even imagine it. But slowly, she started practicing what researchers call selective vulnerability. She started sharing challenges with trusted peers. She started asking her team for help. She started saying no to projects that didn't align with her capacity. And you know what happened? Her anxiety decreased. Her self care improved. Her relationships with her team became more authentic. And her business performed better because she was delegating strategically instead of overfunctioning solo. Research shows that naming and challenging superwoman expectations reduces psychological distress and improves health behaviors. In practice, women like Keisha notice less anxiety, improved well being, more authentic relationships with staff, clients, colleagues. Their teams or businesses perform better because they delegate strategically instead of over functioning alone. That's what I mean when I say unlearning over responsibility is a business strategy. It's not soft, it's smart, it's sustainable, it's how you build something that lasts without sacrificing yourself in the process. Third insight, healing eldest daughter syndrome can redefine what success looks like. Many of us measure success by how many people we take care of, how much we produce, how flawless everything looks. But JaRaena is inviting us into a different definition. Success can shift from I keep everyone afloat to I build structures where I thrive, my team thrives, and my family no longer depends on me to be the emergency plan every time. That might look like hiring help, saying no to emotionally draining roles, building businesses that honor your neurodivergence, your energy, your limits. Here's a powerful story JaRaena shared. There's something called the black tax, the expectation that successful Black professionals financially and emotionally support extended family. Eldest Black daughters often become the primary source of support once they achieve professional or entrepreneurial success. Imagine a woman named Tasha. Tasha grew up in a Black family with limited generational wealth. She was told from a young age that she was the smart one, the one who would make it out, the one who would come back and lift everyone up. And Tasha believed it. She worked hard. She got scholarships. She built a successful business. But as soon as her business started making money, the requests started coming in. Her mother needed help with rent. Her brother needed money for car repairs. Her cousin needed help with child care. And Tasha said yes every single time because that's what she was supposed to do. That's what being the eldest daughter meant. But here's what happened. Every time Tasha diverted business funds to family needs, she delayed important investments. She couldn't afford to hire the marketing team she needed. She couldn't upgrade her technology. She couldn't expand into new markets. The cycle of emergency support echoed her childhood role of fixer, just now with higher financial stakes. And Tasha was exhausted. She was resentful. She loved her family, but she felt trapped. But then Tasha made a decision. She implemented clear financial boundaries. She set fixed amounts for family support instead of open ended access. She separated her personal and business finances, and she had a hard conversation with her family. She said, if the business is healthy, I can help more, but we need structures, not last minute rescues. At first, her family was upset. They didn't understand. But over time, things shifted. Her siblings started taking on more responsibility. Her mother started planning ahead instead of calling Tasha in crisis. And Tasha's business, it stabilized. She reached key revenue milestones. She expanded into new markets. She hired staff and she created more sustainable support for her family without sacrificing her well being. Research shows that when boundaries and financial planning are introduced, Black professionals experience less burnout and more stability in career and financial growth. Black women entrepreneurs who develop solid business systems and funding strategies are better positioned to expand and maintain their enterprises despite external demands. That's what healing eldest daughter syndrome looks like in real life. It's not about cutting people off, it's about creating systems that honor everyone's capacity, including yours. So here's what I want to leave you with today. If you're the eldest daughter or you've carried that same energy into your work and business, I want you to ask yourself this question: where am I still living like I'm responsible for everyone's survival? And what would my life, my career, and my business look like if I wasn't? This is not a rhetorical question. This is an invitation to radical honesty. This is permission to imagine a different way. What if your leadership wasn't about carrying everyone? What if your strength wasn't about never breaking? What if your success wasn't measured by how much you could endure? What if you chose softness, not because you're weak, but because you're finally strong enough to put the cape down? Here's your challenge. This week, I want you to choose one place to put that question into action, one responsibility you'll delegate, one yes you'll turn into a loving no, one way you'll honor your own nervous system, your neurodivergence, your capacity, your rest, without explaining or apologizing. And then I want you to notice, does the world really fall apart when you stop being the emergency plan? Or do you finally start to see what's possible when you let yourself be more than just the eldest daughter? Because, sis, your soft girl era isn't about becoming less capable. It's about becoming more free. It's about reclaiming your life from the roles you were assigned. It's about building a legacy that doesn't cost you your peace. The world doesn't need you to keep surviving. The world needs you to start thriving. And that starts the moment you decide that your rest, your boundaries, your softness, they're not negotiable anymore. So I'm asking you, are you ready to rewrite your story? Are you ready to let go of the cape? Are you ready to step into the fullness of who you are when you're not carrying everyone else? Because the truth is, you were never meant to hold the world on your shoulders. You were meant to stand in your power, in your peace, in your softness, and let the world rise to meet you there. That's your soft girl era. And it starts now.